Let's bring in Clement Kwok, exclusively with us, CEO of Hongkong Shanghai Hotels. Good morning and nice to see you.
Good morning, David.
Good year?
Excellent.
Really good year?
Good year.
Okay.
Very significant year because it was a year in which we finally completed the new Peninsula hotels in London and Istanbul. Now, you're already aware that we are developers and owners as well as operators of our hotel assets. So in order to build these two hotels has taken a long time. We've invested a lot of capital, both financial and human. A lot of our people have been involved in building these hotels. And finally, to open them, in the case of Peninsula London, the construction budget was £1 billion. So you can see that was a very big commitment for us to make.
£1 billion to build the Peninsula London?
Well, that includes not only the hotel, but also some very high-end luxury residences as well. But the project has taken a long time. It's taken a lot of commitment from my people. And finally, we've opened these two very significant openings, which we hope will become amongst the best hotels in the world.
Right.
So that was the big thing for the year. Now, actually, if you look at our existing properties, the other hotels that are already in existence, we saw a very strong recovery in 2023. So the results of the other hotels were very good coming up, but we've had to also finance the openings of London and Istanbul. As you know, when you open a new hotel, you have pre-opening expenses, you have to build up your staff, you have to pay for them while they're being trained. And also, after the hotel opens, it takes a bit of time before your earnings can stabilize because you have to build up your business base and so on. So those factors affected our numbers for the year. As you said, we still made a profit for the year, but that was from the combination of the existing properties making more money, but having to finance the cost of the new openings.
Right. So I guess in many ways, this financial statement, I'm holding it right now, and it really consolidates that. It would have been better, I think, and just to paraphrase, would have been better were it not, of course, for some of the sort of one-off expenses. Now, since we're talking about London and Istanbul, why don't we start with that then? How are those two properties doing? And generally speaking, how long before... Is break-even a good way to put that? How long before you typically see that turn?
Well, we usually use the word stabilization, and that takes 2 to 3 years, depending on the market and how quickly things build up.
Right.
In London, we're already seeing very strong demand and very good trends. I think, again, as you know, the location of the London hotel is superb. It is right on Hyde Park Corner, opposite Buckingham Palace. So it is in a very prominent location, and the hotel is really beautiful. So, the reaction and responses to that hotel have been very, very good. We've already hosted a major event in London called the Prince's Trust, which is King Charles's own charity. And so things like this have given a very high profile to this hotel. And so we're seeing the revenue trends starting to pick up. So that's very good.
Okay.
The Istanbul hotel, the location is wonderful because it sits on the Bosphorus overlooking the old town. So, when you stand on the grounds and you have gardens on the Bosphorus, it's actually a magical place. However, Istanbul, as you can imagine, our business has been a little bit affected because when we first opened a year ago, we had the earthquake in Turkey, and more recently with the uncertainty in the Middle East with the Israeli-Gaza conflict, that has affected the pickup a little bit. So, as I said, the pace of pickup will vary a little bit depending on market circumstances, but yeah, generally we hope that 2 or 3 years will be stable by then.
That's still a benchmark.
Yeah.
Okay. The pace of which, that brings me to Hong Kong. A couple of questions on Peninsula Hong Kong.
Yeah.
How far are we to pre-COVID levels? That's one part. And we were talking during the break, geopolitical tensions, right? That's such an abstract concept as it pertains to travel, I guess, in some minds, right? Can I draw a direct line between geopolitical tensions and visitors to a certain area? And are you affected by what's taking place?
Well, in fact, I mentioned earlier that all of our properties have recovered very well in the past year. And indeed they have, including Greater China, our peninsulas in Hong Kong, Beijing and Shanghai. However, those are the 3 hotels that have not recovered to pre-COVID levels. Now, I'm not a political expert. I cannot comment on geopolitics. All I can comment is what visitors feel when they come to Hong Kong. And I can say that I think we all know. People still ask questions overseas like, is Hong Kong a safe place to be? Now, a couple of weeks ago, we and some other hotel companies actually arranged for some of the very top travel agents from North America to come to Hong Kong to see for themselves. And really, I think that's the only thing you can do. You can show people that Hong Kong still has the vibrancy, the excitement, and everything that it had to offer before. And actually, these travel agents who were very senior, they were owners of the top travel agencies, they said, our eyes have been opened. We did not realize that Hong Kong is still such an attractive place. We all know Hong Kong is a very safe place to be, and people should be, have no concerns about traveling here. But I think we have to spread the word by word of mouth, by people coming to visit and then posting on social media, telling their friends and their contacts what they have seen. And I really think Hong Kong is on the way back. Now, from our point of view, we are seeing more long-haul international leisure travelers coming back. That is a segment that we've been missing more recently. We are seeing some trends coming, but I think all of us in Hong Kong should, help to promote and communicate that message to the international audience.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are future bookings looking like for the Hong Kong property?
We're seeing a gradual pickup. And as I said, we're seeing a bit more long-haul business coming back. But we need more. We need more.
How much growth do you see? Beijing and Shanghai, those two specific properties moving forward this year?
Well, I think in terms of long-haul travel, the same comment applies to Hong Kong, Beijing and Shanghai.
Right.
Beijing and Shanghai, however, as you would expect, we are seeing the development of a more affluent domestic market as well. And you would see that in the U.S., a lot of the customers come from within the U.S. And in China, you're seeing with the growth of affluence in China that more customers come from within China as well. So we're seeing growth in all of those places. Difficult to put a percentage on it, David, because, it's difficult to predict business a few months out nowadays.
When do you hope to reach pre-COVID levels if all things go to plan? Let's put it that way. What are your assumptions?
Well, I think for the group as a whole, I'm really hoping to exceed pre-COVID by the end of the coming year. But, of course, we're always ambitious and we work very hard to try and achieve that.
I want to ask you about two things that affect not just you, affects the industry, affects the world. So we talk about inflation a lot on this show, and I'm wondering from your perspective, you have different properties across the world. Are you still feeling price pressures? That's now part one of the question. The part two is labor shortages have been an issue for your industry.
Yes.
Has that solved itself? Where are we on that story?
The labor situation varies from market to market. It's tighter in some places and not as tight in others. But however, generally, you're right. There has been labor cost inflation. And actually, the price of luxury has had to go up as a result. In order to provide the services which customers expect in a top luxury hotel, the cost of providing that because of the labor cost has gone up, and therefore prices have gone up. If one looks at luxury hotel rooms around the world, definitely that pricing has gone up. However, there's still a lot of affordability of people, provided one supplies the right product, that there are people who can afford to pay for that product.
Is that the main source of inflation? Is it labor, or are there factors also coming in?
Energy costs and so on, but as a percentage, labor costs are by far the biggest component.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for making time. It's great to see you. 22 years, 23 years?
22 years.
22 years in the job.
In the job.
There we go.